Once in a summer, not unlike this one, when the golden light filtered through 1,000 gentle leaves and a warm hush hung over the forest like a lullaby. A bear and a wolf walked quietly side by side. Their paws pressed softly into the mossy earth, and overhead, birds fluttered, hidden in the emerald canopy. The bear, large and heavy, but not unkind, paused by a clearing where a soft, melodic song floated through the trees. It was sweet and bright, and full of something too delicate to be named, like a memory of childhood or a breeze through open windows in springtime. He tilted his head. "Brother Wolf." The bear rumbled, his voice like distant thunder softened by fog. "What bird is it that sings so beautifully?" The wolf, sleek and wise, lifted his snout to the sky, listening intently. Then, with a knowing nod, he said, "That, my friend, is no ordinary bird. That is the king of birds, the great willow wren himself. Before him, we must bow in reverence." The bear's eyes widened with wonder. The king of birds. Truly, then I must see his palace with my own eyes. Show me where he lives. But the wolf chuckled, low and quiet. "Oh, it is not so simple. One cannot just barge in on royalty. We must wait. The queen comes first, with food in her beak. Only then does the king show himself." So the two stood hidden behind a thick cluster of ferns, their breaths shallow, ears perked. And soon enough, the queen came, her feathers shining like sunlight through honey, a tiny insect delicately caught in her beak. She fluttered to the nest nestled high in the crook of a willow branch, and not far behind came the king himself. They were small, almost laughably so compared to the massive bear, but their presence held something majestic, something unshakably dignified. The royal pair fed their young ones tenderly, chirping and fluttering in a rhythm only they understood. The bear watched in awe, but as soon as the king and queen departed, his patience wore thin. "I cannot wait," the bear grumbled. "I must see this palace." The wolf, always cautious, tugged at the bear's sleeve with a claw. "Wait. Let them leave completely. We must not disturb their peace." But the bear was already creeping forward, heavy steps muffled only slightly by the forest floor. He peered into the nest, nestled snugly within a hollow in the tree, and saw 5 or 6 small, fluffy young wrens blinking up at him. "This," the bear scoffed, "this is the royal palace. It is but a shabby hole in a tree. And you," he narrowed his eyes at the chicks, "you are no royal children. Your scruffy little street birds no better than crows." The young wrens, though tiny, flared with fury. Their feathers puffed, their voices rose in a chorus of protest. "We are not. Our parents are noble and kind. Bear, you will pay for this insult." The bear laughed, shaking his great head, and wandered off, but the damage was done. The young ones trembled with indignation and heartbreak. When the king and queen returned with more food, the chicks refused it. "We shall not eat," they cried in unison. "Not a single fly's wing, not a single berry, until justice is done. The bear insulted us. He called us dishonorable." The queen's wings trembled with rage. The king's eyes gleamed with fury. "Then so be it," the king whispered, calm and dangerous as a still lake. "There shall be war, calm and deep in the forest." The wind began to stir. Its leaves rustled with whispers of battle, and all the creatures, great and small, would soon feel the call to arms. The wind carried the king's vow far and wide, through the trees and over the rivers, past the hills and into the deep hollows of the earth. "There shall be war," he had said, and though the words were whispered gently, they echoed like a thunderclap in the hearts of every creature who lived beneath the sun and sky. The queen, with fury in her feathers, flew alongside the king. Through the stillness of dusk, They landed in a towering fir tree and called a gathering. Not just birds of their own kind, but all that fluttered, buzzed, and danced upon the wind were summoned to the court of the willow-wren. The air trembled as flocks of tiny finches and great owls arrived. Cays, sparrows, ravens, and crows circled. Overhead, hummingbirds hovered like living gems. Even the bees came, golden and humming with quiet fire. And the dragonflies glided like ancient spirits above the water from the deepest parts of the forest. The hornets came silent, deadly. The midges, though small, arrived in clouds. The butterflies too, though they bore no weapons, fluttered in solidarity. And the flies came, restless and determined. For they, too, had heard the insult. The king, perched on a high branch, gazed down at his great airborne assembly. "My children have been dishonored," he called. His voice was soft, yet every creature heard it in the center of their being. The bear, in his pride and ignorance, mocked our home and our honor. This cannot go unanswered. The crowd of wings and buzzing hearts stirred with outrage, and a great cry of unity rose into the darkening sky. But far across the forest, in a den beneath twisted roots, the bear stirred uneasily in his slumber. In dreams, he saw 1,000 wings blotting out the sun. He awoke with a start, and the wolf, already alert, met him with a steady gaze. "They will not forget," the wolf murmured. "You have struck at something sacred." The bear grunted, ashamed but stubborn. "They are small. What harm can they do?" The wolf turned his head slowly. "Small does not mean weak. You'll learn that soon enough." As the birds prepared for war, the four-legged beasts, too, began to stir. The bear, unable to sleep, sent word to every corner of the earth. "Prepare for battle," the bear called. The birds threatened war, and we must answer. From mountain and meadow came the replies. The oxen, heavy and strong, stepped forward. The cows, slow but many, followed with loyal hearts. The fleet-footed deer gathered in quiet ranks. The foxes crept from their dens, and even the asses, stubborn and sure, brayed their agreement. The wolf stood beside the bear and nodded solemnly. "We need a leader," he said. "Someone cunning, someone fast." The bear grunted. "Who do you suggest?" The forest grew silent. Then came a rustle through the underbrush, and out stepped the fox. Red and clever-eyed. "I will lead you," said the fox, brushing his long tail behind him like a silken banner. "But we must be smart. The birds are many. Their eyes are everywhere." The bear nodded slowly. "And what shall be our signal?" The fox lifted his tail and gave a grin. "This shall be it. When my tail rises high, you shall attack. But if it falls low, run. That will mean we are lost." Unseen above them all, hidden beneath a pale green leaf, a small and silent spy listened with rapt attention. T, the gnat clever, quiet and nearly invisible, had heard everything, with wings as fine as whispers. She drifted back through the moonlit woods, straight toward the waiting king and queen. She would tell them all. The night was still when the gnat returned, so still you could hear the soft hum of her wings echo between the trees. The moon lit a path of silver through the canopy, and the stars blinked with silent curiosity, as if they too awaited news of what was to come. The willow-wren king sat in his high bough, beside the queen. Below them, a sea of feathers rustled in. Army of birds and buzzing allies gathered in breathless anticipation. The gnat, delicate and determined, landed on a branch before the throne. "I have listened," she said softly, her tiny voice magnified in the hush. "The bear has made the fox their general. It's the clever one with the red tail." A murmur ran through the gathered creatures. "And they have a signal," the gnat continued. When the fox holds his tail high, it means charge, but when he lowers it, it means all is lost, and they must flee. The queen leaned forward. "Are you sure?" "I hid beneath the very leaf where they made their plan," said the gnat. "I saw and heard everything." The king nodded slowly. "Then we shall use this." "Thank you, small one. You may have wings the size of a petal, but your courage weighs as much as the earth." The gnat bowed, glowing with pride. The king turned to his gathered army. "Now hear me," he called. "Tomorrow, at dawn, we strike. Taya, but not with rage, not with chaos. We strike with wisdom and unity." He looked toward a small cluster of hornets, resting quietly on a high branch. "I have a task for you," the king said. "When the fox stands before his army, you will sting him not once, not twice, but 3 times. Make him drop his tail." The hornets hummed in agreement, their wings vibrating with purpose. "Asterisk, when that tail drops," said the king, "the enemy will think they have lost, and they will run." The queen spread her wings, voice gentle and fierce all at once. "Remember, this is not only for revenge, it is for honor. It is for peace." The birds nodded. Even the smallest midge lifted her head with pride. And so, as the stars wheeled overhead and the forest slumbered in soft shadows, armies, one of sky, one of earth, readied themselves for battle. As the first rays of light touched the forest canopy, golden and warm like the breath of morning, a deep hush fell over the world. Asterisk, the bear's army stood in the clearing, muscles tensed, claws ready. Oxen pawed the ground. Deer twitched their ears. The fox, poised and proud, stood before them, all his red tail curled high behind him like a banner of flame. On the other side of the trees, the sky darkened not with storm, but with wings. Thousands of them, hawks and wrens, bees and butterflies, beetles, dragonflies, hornets, and gnats swirled in great patterns above the earth. The air buzzed, thrummed, and hummed with energy. Then, silently and swiftly, Hornet flew. He looped down behind the fox, hovering beneath that bushy tail end, stung. Once, the fox winced, but held his tail high. Twice, he shifted, growled quietly, but still stood firm. Hey. Third sting fiercer than the last. Then the fox yelped with a sudden twist. His tail dropped low between his legs, and he whirled around in pain. The bear saw it, so did the ox, the deer, and every last creature on the ground. And just as planned, panic struck. "They've defeated us," someone cried. The signal. The tail is down. Retreat. In a stampede of confusion, the animals turned, thundering back into the forest, hooves pounding and claws scrambling for safety. And in that moment, the sky erupted with victory. The birds swooped and circled, but not with violence. They sang. A chorus of triumph echoed through the trees, a song of cleverness and courage, of truth defended not with claws, but with wit. The Willorin king watched as the bear's army vanished into the woods, his chest rising with slow satisfaction. The queen turned to him and smiled. "Let us go home. Our children are waiting." And with the sun rising behind them, golden and calm, they flew. The forest, once echoing with the thunder of battle cries and the rustle of retreating paws, now stood in stillness once more. Morning sunlight filtered down like threads of gold through the canopy, and the dew on each leaf glistened as if nature itself had wept and now smiled again. High in the willow, nestled safely in their home, the young wrens sat in silence. Though the sound of victory had rung through the trees, they remained still, waiting, their tiny heads turned toward the sky, their feathers fluffed with pride. But their eyes carried a question left unanswered. The queen arrived first, her wings soft as the wind, her beak holding a ripe berry. The king followed, his chest puffed, his feathers still touched with dust from the day's great flight. children," said the queen, her voice rich with warmth. "You may eat now. The battle has been won." But the eldest of the young ones, his downy feathers just beginning to darken, shook his small head. "No, mother," he said. "We are not yet ready to feast. The bear insulted our family. He called us dishonorable. He must come. He must look us in the eye and speak the truth." The other chicks chirped in solemn agreement. The queen glanced at the king with a slow nod. The willow-wren king spread his wings and rose into the sky once more. He flew, not as a warrior, nor as a king returning from conquest, but as a father, defending his children's dignity. Across the forest he flew, past the meadows and the moss-covered stones, till he came to the entrance of the bear's great hollow. It was dark inside, and the air was heavy. The bear, once proud and unbothered, now lay curled in a shadow, his ears twitching with every sound. He had not slept, and when he heard the flap of wings outside his cave, his great heart trembled. The king's voice was clear, not loud, not angry, just firm, like the sound of a stream cutting gently through stone. "Growler," he said, using the bear's forest name, "you must come to the nest." There was a pause. "You must come," the king repeated, "and you must beg the pardon of my children, or every rib in your body shall be broken, not by war, but by shame." The bear groaned, and the sound rolled out like a fallen tree. But he rose, slowly, one heavy paw after another. He emerged into the light. His great body moved not with pride, but with the weight of regret. He followed the willow-wren king in silence, through paths he once walked with laughter, now lined with shadows of his own making. The birds watched from the trees. The butterflies paused in flight. Even the insects grew quiet as the bear climbed the willow tree, trembling on each branch until he reached the nest. There sat the young wrens, their small eyes sharp and waiting. The bear looked at them each, one a tiny soul of fire, and dignity bowed his mighty head. "I was wrong," he rumbled. "I did not see the honor in your home. I did not see the royalty in your hearts. You are true children of a noble king and queen, and I am sorry." Silence followed his words. The forest held its breath, and then the smallest chick, Fluffy and Bright, chirped once. "Now," he said, "we may eat." Laughter erupted from the nest. The queen offered the berries and insects she had gathered, and the children devoured them with joy, chattering and singing between bites. The bear, still quiet, gave a small smile. Something old and cold in his chest began to melt. That night, the forest celebrated not with grand fireworks or feasts, but with peace. The birds sang lullabies to their little ones. The wind sighed gently through the trees, and in a willow by the water, a once wounded family curled together, full and proud. Beneath a blanket of stars, the moon had risen fully now, round and gentle, casting its silver light across the forest canopy. It bathed every branch, every leaf, and every nest in a glow, so soft it seemed spun from dreams. The air had changed. No longer did it carry the scent of tension or fear. Now it was thick with calm, with healing, with peace. In the willow tree, the young wrens had eaten their fill. Their bellies full and their hearts light, they nestled close beneath their parents' wings, though they had been wronged, and though they had witnessed the weight of war, they had also tasted the sweetness of justice and the kindness that followed, true repentance. The queen hummed a soft song, an ancient tune passed down from bird to bird through generations. A lullaby, not just for the chicks, but for the forest itself. And as she sang, something remarkable happened. Across the forest, creatures who had once stood on opposite sides of a battlefield now lay down beside each other. The deer, who had fled the stampede, found themselves drinking peacefully beside a raven at the riverbank. The bees, once poised to sting in defense, now floated lazily among night-blooming flowers, pollinating in silence under the stars. Even the fox, sly and stung, curled up in a hollow log, licking his tail and muttering something that almost sounded like a laugh. The bear, humbled and quiet, had returned to his den, but not alone in spirit. In his heart, he carried a new awareness that greatness lies not in size, but in grace, and that even the smallest voices, when united in truth, can shift the mightiest of creatures. High above them all, the Willow King stood watch on his perch. He did not sing, not tonight. He simply listened to the wind in the branches, to the rustling of dreams below, to the silence that follows when all is right again. And in that stillness, a peace deeper than sleep settled over the land. For in the forest, where once pride had stirred and tempers had risen, forgiveness had taken root, and like all things planted in honesty and nurtured in understanding, it grew quickly and quietly and beautifully. The stars blinked slowly above, tired eyes watching from heaven, and the forest slept. Let your thoughts settle now, like leaves falling to earth. Breathe softly, as the creatures do, beneath the moon's kind gaze, and know that no matter how the day began, the night, like the willow wren's lullaby, holds only peace. Time passed, though no one could say how long. In the forest, time often forgets its steps. The sun and moon keep dancing their quiet rhythm overhead, and life below simply breathes in harmony. Under the willow, the nest that once held small, outraged voices now held nothing but quiet breathing and warm dreams. The young wrens, now slightly bigger and braver, dreamed of skies they had not yet flown, of winds they had not yet chased, and of songs they had not yet sung. Their feathers twitched softly with each dream, and their heads lay tucked beneath gentle wings. The king and queen watched them from a nearby branch, silent, content, still, and proud. There is a kind of strength, said the queen, her voice like the rustle of soft leaves, that comes not from beaks or claws, but from speaking the truth and waiting for the world to listen. The king nodded slowly. And there is a kind of peace, he added, that only comes after the heart forgives. Below them, the willow swayed in the night breeze, its long branches whispering lullabies to the earth. The tree, too, had watched everything. It had seen the bear's anger, the children's fire, the war, and the healing. And now it sang with the wind, not loudly, but enough. Across the clearing, the bear had not gone far. He did not hide as he once did, nor did he stomp through the forest without care. He moved gently, now slow steps, heavy and mindful. The world beneath his paws mattered more. Sometimes, the bear would sit by the base of the willow, watching the wind tickle its leaves. And in those moments, he didn't feel big or small. He just felt ... quiet, and perhaps that was enough. The fox, still sly, still clever. But now, when he told stories to the younger foxes by firefly's light, he always ended with the same line: never mock the nest of a creature you don't understand. Even a wren can bring down a kingdom if the cause is just. And the birds, they sang, not of war, not of fear, but of what had been restored. In the day, their wings painted the sky with movement. In the night, their songs folded into dreams. And so the forest, ever turning, ever growing, held within it the memory of one summer, one insult, one war of wings and paws, one apology that changed everything. And now there's only peace, only the hush of leaves, only the song of the willow, only the breath of sleep. Night deepened in the forest. The sky above was now velvet dark, scattered with stars that blinked like sleepy eyes, watching the quiet world. Below, the willow tree, guardian of the royal nest, stood gently swinging its long arms, draping like curtains around a stage, now empty of conflict, but full of meaning. Inside the nest, the young wrens slept, but not the restless sleep of anxious hearts. No, this was the sleep of small heroes, of those who have stood for something true and been heard. One lay curled in a tight ball, dreaming of far-off lands beyond the mountain's edge. Another mumbled soft chirps in his sleep, reliving the days. Victory, not with pride, but with peace, even the smallest of them. The one who had once shivered beneath the bear's gaze now breathed so steadily. It was as if his very heartbeat followed the rhythm of the leaves above them. The queen watched with half-closed eyes, and the king, ever silent now, perched with his feathers ruffled just slightly from the breeze. They did not speak. They didn't need to. What had once needed defending was now whole. What had once been questioned was now respected, and what had once frightened them now rested in the shadows, humbled and changed. Not far away, in a small hollow beneath a leaning birch, the Nada, tiny spy of wisdom lay resting as well. She buzzed gently in her sleep, dreaming of leaves large enough to cover secrets, and of kings who listened, even the hornets whose stings had turned the tide of a great misunderstanding, now hung silently in their papery hive, unmoving, except for the slight twitch of antennae as they drifted deeper into slumber. The bears, too, slept, not heavily, not with the restless growl of old pride, but quietly, curled beneath a soft blanket of pine needles, his great chest rising and falling like a lullaby. His dreams were not of war or shame, but of a willow tree, and the smallest of birds looking at him without fear. In that dream, they sang, and he listened. Far above the forest, the sky stretched wide and endless, stitched with stars that pulsed like ancient lullabies, each one a soft note in a melody no ear could hear, but every heart could feel. The forest was no longer just quiet. It was reverent, as if all the creatures, all the trees, all the roots and rivers were holding a sacred breath together. A breath of peace, a breath of healing, a breath of stillness, born from understanding, and somewhere within that great hush, the Willow-Wren Queen began to sing. It was not a song meant for celebration. It was not loud or proud. It was the kind of song that trees remember and winds carry for centuries, a song for those who have been wronged, and for those who dared to make it right. Her voice rose like mist over a morning meadow. No words were needed, just sound, just feeling, love. One by one, the stars seemed to lean in, glowing just a little brighter. The king closed his eyes, swaying slightly with the rhythm, his feathers catching the silver of moonlight like armor no longer needed. And across the branches, other birds began to hum. Even the owls keepers of night offered their low, echoing calls in harmony. The insects, whose tiny hearts had raced during the battle, now rested on leaves and bark and blades of grass, their wings folded like hands in prayer. Even the fox, back in his den with tail curled tight, dreamt of that song, though he would never admit it in daylight. And the bear, he stirred, not because he was troubled, but because something old in him had softened. He lifted his great head and listened. That song did not judge him. It simply welcomed him to remember. Remember how a moment's mockery had nearly brought war, and how a moment's honesty had ended it. How even the smallest of voices could echo across a forest, and how true strength sometimes means lowering your head and saying, "I was wrong." As the queen's song floated into the stars, a breeze picked it up and carried it beyond the woods to places where other nests waited, where other stories would someday unfold. But for now, here, all was still, and beneath the willow tree, the young wrens, full from supper and wrapped in warmth, slept soundly. Their dreams no longer full of fear or fire, but of flying high over peaceful lands carried by winds that no longer whispered war, but sang only this: "You are loved. You need not do anything more." The forest did not wake all at once. No, it rose, like a sigh from slumber, a yawn of golden light stretching across treetops, a ripple of warmth touching the tips of leaves and the edges of sleeping wings. The sun, gentle and slow, poured itself between the branches like honey, not rushing, not shouting, just arriving, in the willow tree, beneath which the queen and king of the wrens had nestled, seemed to hum with the memory of the night's quiet triumph. The young ones stirred first, blinking in the dappled light, stretching tiny wings, still soft with sleep. There was no alarm in their waking, no echo of fear, no hint of danger, only the pleasant drowsiness of peace. Like a warm blanket still wrapped around their dreams, far above, the sky was brushed with soft lavender and coral. The stars had stepped aside without a sound, their watch complete, and the wind, once a whisper of warnings and wings, now danced lazily between the trees, carrying with it the scent of dew and moss in morning promise. Not far from the tree, the bear too had awakened, not startled, but rested. He did not growl. He did not stomp. He only sat in the hush, blinking at the way the light scattered across the forest floor. He thought of the song. He thought of how small the willow wren had seemed, and yet how strong, how certain, how kind. A quiet part of him, the part that once remembered. Cuphood and sun-warmed naps. Smiled, and from his place beneath the trees, he rumbled, not a threat, but something almost like thanks. The queen and king of the wrens watched from above, side by side, feathers touched by morning gold. There was nothing left to prove, no tails to twist, no victories to declare, only the knowledge that they had protected their own, not with force, not with fury, but with heart. And now, the forest would carry on. New songs would be sung, new days would unfold. But this day, this one, would always be remembered. The day the smallest bird stood tall, the day the mighty bear bowed his pride. The day peace chose to stay, and as the sun rose fully, scattering sleepy shadows and waking blossoms, the queen tucked her head beneath her wing. There was time yet for sleep, even in peace. There is rest, even in light. There is dreaming, even in morning. There is magic, and the forest whispered, "All is well." Long after the sun had risen and the dew had quietly faded from the leaves, the forest remembered. It did not remember in shouts or speeches. There were no statues raised, no banners unfurled, no drums echoed, no trumpets called. The forest remembered, in silence, in the hush between bird calls, in the pause before a breeze, in the soft hush of moss beneath a paw or claw. The tale of the willow wren and the bear became something more than a moment. It became a thread, woven into every branch and stream. The squirrels spoke of it in hushed tones as they gathered acorns. The foxes, clever and curious, passed it down to their kids under silver moonlight. Even the owls, with eyes full of wisdom and wings full of cup. Dusk blinked slowly and said, it was the day the small stood without fear. But the willow triad held the story deepest. Its roots hummed with it. Its bark carried it like a lullaby. Its leaves, even in the wind, whispered the tale in songs too soft for the world beyond to hear. And beneath that tree, where once the queen and king had stood their ground with courage wrapped in feathers and love, new life began to stir. The wren chicks grew, learning not only to fly, but to sing. Not just melodies of spring and sunshine, but songs of bravery, of kindness, of standing firm with gentle hearts. The queen would often perch beside her little ones and hum the tune she'd sung to the bear. And though they didn't yet know the full weight of its meaning, they felt it in their bones, in their wings, in their dreams. And so the forest continued, season by season, but in quiet moments, when the moon was high and the air was still. Even the tallest trees would lean in a little closer to the willow dot to listen, because every forest needs a memory, and this memory was a treasure of a bird, a bear, a song. And the day piece was chosen, not because it was easy, but because it was right. And the forest, in all its ancient knowing, murmured softly to itself, "Never forget the smallest voices. They often carry the greatest truth." As night settled gently over the forest, a quiet stillness wrapped around the trees. The moonlight slipped through the canopy, casting a silver glow across the branches. The willow tree stood quietly, as if watching over everything inside the nest. The young willow wrens were nestled beside their mother. They had grown stronger with each passing day. Their feathers were now full, their wings ready for flight, but their hearts still listened closely to every word their mother spoke. That evening, the queen decided to tell them the full story. Not just what had happened with the bear, but why it mattered. She spoke gently, her voice low and steady. She explained how once the bear had not listened. He had been so sure of his power that he had ignored the warnings of the forest and the pleas of smaller creatures. His pride had clouded his judgment. But when he had finally paused and truly heard the queen's voice calm, brave, and unwavering, he had changed. The young wrens listened in silence. Their eyes were wide, not with fear, but with wonder. Their mother told them that courage wasn't always about fighting or being loud. Sometimes it was about staying calm, about speaking clearly, even when afraid, by protecting others, not with anger, but with wisdom and love. That, she said, was how peace had returned to the forest, outside the nest. Small rustlings could be heard, other animals moving through the undergrowth, preparing for sleep. But near the willow, everything was quiet, listening. The young wrens asked questions. What if the bear comes back? What if others don't listen? What if they're too small to make a difference? Their mother answered each one with warmth. She reminded them that the forest was now watching, that all creatures, big and small, remembered what had happened. And most of all, she reminded them that they were never truly alone. The forest had changed, not just because of her voice, but because others had joined in. The mice, the bees, the birds in the branches. They had all stood together, and one by one, the young wrens began to understand. Their size didn't make them weak. Their voice didn't make them silent. Their kindness didn't make them easy to break. It made them strong in a different way. That night, as stars scattered across the sky, the queen watched her children fall asleep. One by one, beneath the shelter of her wings. Above them, the stars twinkled like tiny lanterns. Atia, the forest was quiet, at peace, and somewhere in the heart of the trees, the memory of that long ago day still lingered. Not loud, not bold, but steady. The next morning began with a mist that clung to the ground like a soft blanket. The forest, usually bursting with morning birdsong, was quieter than usual. Dewdrops sparkled on leaves, and the sky held a soft, silvery gray. From beneath a bramble bush near the edge of the clearing, a little hedgehog slowly emerged. His name was Nettle, and he was not known for bravery or speeches. He was known for something else entirely. He was the forest keeper of light. Years ago, during a long winter, Nettle had found a broken lantern left behind by humans who had once camped near the woods. Over time, with bits of crystal and dried glowroot, he had turned it into something magical. It was small and unassuming, but it glowed with a soft warmth that could be seen from far away. He only lit it during times of deep fog or silent need. Today, Nettle carried it carefully on his back, tied with vines. As he made his way to the willow tree, the queen, resting among her children, looked up as Nettle approached. She had not seen him in many weeks. Without a word, Nettle set the lantern down at the base of the willow and nodded politely. "I thought the little ones might need it," he said, his voice scratchy with age but steady. The queen tilted her head. "Why today?" Nettle looked around. "'Cause the forest is quiet again. Not in fear this time, but in waiting. There's change coming. Can feel it in the trees. Can't you?" Asterisk. She nodded slowly. He continued. "Light doesn't always guide the way forward. Sometimes it's simply a reminder that there is a way, that someone is watching, that you're not lost, even if everything seems unclear." The lantern flickered gently, casting tiny golden dots onto the base of the willow bark. The young wrens, now half awake, stared at it with curiosity. The warmth from its glow reached them, but it wasn't heat they felt. It was ... comfort, presence, a quiet reassurance. Nettle didn't stay long. A was not one for long conversations or speeches. After another polite nod, he turned and began his slow journey back into the undergrowth. But the lantern remained as the mist began to lift. Its light did not fade. Instead, it held steady, like a soft heartbeat beneath the leaves. And even though no words were spoken between them, Keen understood what Nettle had done. He hadn't come to warn. He hadn't come to teach. He had come to offer something, just as rare quiet protection, not from storms or predators, but from doubt, from forgetfulness, from the kind of darkness that seeps in when we forget how much we matter. The forest didn't need battles that day. It needed a light dot. By midday, the forest had warmed under a gentle sun. Shafts of golden light poured between branches, and the air smelled of moss, pine, decay, and promise. The queen had sent the elder fledglings to stretch their wings further today, not far, just enough to feel the sky, to learn the wind's shape beyond the safe shelter of the willow dot. As they fluttered out, one by one, something curious happened. One of the younger wren sable, quiet and thoughtful, noticed a dip in the earth behind the great willow roots. Not a hole, but a hollow, almost hidden beneath a web of ivy and jeweled leaves. Curious. She crept forward. She pushed through the soft layers of nature's curtain until she felt something solid stone. It was wide, flat, and surprisingly warm. At its center, a smooth spiral was carved into its surface, swirling inward like a forgotten fingerprint left by time itself. Sibyl tilted her head. It didn't look like part of the forest floor. It looked ancient, placed as if someone long ago had hidden it here. Tucked gently under the roots of the queen's tree, she ran her wing over the spiral, and to her surprise, it glowed faintly. Not bright, not magical in the flashy sense, but quietly alive. Sable called for her mother when the queen arrived. She stood still for a long time. "I had forgotten," she whispered. "My own mother once showed me this." The queen lowered herself beside Sable, her feathers brushing the carved stone. "It's called the root memory," she said. "It remembers everything this tree has ever seen, not in words, not in pictures, but in feeling." Sable blinked, like ... dreams. Yes, old dreams, deep ones, the kind trees carry in their bones. The queen explained that every great tree in the forest had a root memory, but most had been buried or lost to time. A few remained open, known only to creatures who still listened. "And if you stay quiet enough," she whispered, "you might feel a story come through your feathers." Sable sat still, her heart thudding softly. She closed her eyes, and there, in the hush of the roots and leaves, she felt it a memory not her own. It's time when the willow was just a sapling, when storms cracked the sky and giant creatures walked the forest floor, when small birds had already begun to build her homes in branches not yet strong. She didn't see it, but she felt it. and that feeling of beginnings, of endurance, of things growing despite hardships settled deep inside her. When Sable opened her eyes, she felt taller, not in body, but in spirit. The queen watched her daughter and smiled. "Now you carry it too," she said. Not everyone in the forest would ever know of the root memory. Not all would need to, but for those who did, those quiet enough to feel, and still enough to listen, it was a gift, a reminder that everything we grow through leaves a mark, even if no one sees it. Further beyond the willow's canopy, nestled in a forgotten corner of the forest, stood a tree unlike any other. Its bark was silver gray, smooth and cool to the touch, and its hollow trunk opened like a doorway, but few had ever entered. It was old, older than even the queen remembered. Birds didn't nest in it, animals didn't sleep near it, yet it remained untouched, respected by all. Some said it listened. Others whispered it remembered things no one dared speak aloud. Today, a stranger approached it. Not a bear, not a bird, but a quiet forest fox named Taryn. Her fur was the color of rusted leaves, and her eyes were clever, but kind. Taryn had come seeking silence, after the news of the bear's humiliation and the small kingdom's growing strength. The forest had become ... noisy. Too many whispers, too many shifting alliances among creatures large and small. But here, near the hollow tree, the world stood still. She stepped inside, paws brushing soft earth inside the hollow. It felt different, cooler, still, not lifeless, but expectant. As her eyes adjusted, Taryn noticed something along the inner walls. Tiny carvings, not scratches, not claw marks, symbols, circles, arrows, stars, moons. Some were faded, others glowed faintly, etched with some long-lost care. And in the center, a shallow bowl carved from the wood itself held something extraordinary. Feathers, dozens of them, all different colors, all left carefully. These weren't fallen feathers. They were offerings. Taryn stepped closer. The scent of old cedar filled the hollow. She didn't touch anything. She didn't need to. Somehow, she understood. This was a place of balance, a space where all forest creatures, bird, beast, or bug, came to leave a mark when they needed peace. Not power, not victory, peace. The feathers weren't for show. They were silent promises to listen, to protect, to remember. Taryn backed out slowly, nodding to the tree's gentle presence. She didn't leave a feather, not yet, but she would. And when she did, she knew it would be real. Outside, the sunlight filtered through in warm, golden beams. She looked once more at the hollow, its quiet mouth half hidden by ivy, and smiled softly. Not every secret in the forest needed to be loud. Some held the forest together, not with strength, but with stillness. As summer's warmth slowly began to shift into a softer breeze, something stirred in the heart of the forest, a quiet excitement. Like the hush before a song begins, word passed gently from branch to branch, carried not by shouting or calling, but through glances, nods, and rustling leaves. The animals were preparing for something rare, a midnight gathering, tradition so old, even the owls remembered it in whispers. It wasn't a meeting of war or judgment. There would be no speeches, no displays of strength. Instead, it was a moment when the forest paused together, to just be. Under a wide, ancient tree whose crown brushed the stars, creatures began to arrive just after dusk, one by one, without noise or fuss. The squirrels brought bunches of berries, still damp with dew. The mice carried tiny moss bundles to line the edges of the circle. Even the hedgehogs, slow and steady, had gathered tiny stones polished by the river, placing them in patterns only they understood. High in the branches, birds of every size took silent roost, their feathers tucked in. eyes wide with anticipation. No one led this event. No one told anyone what to do. It simply happened, as if the forest itself guided them. When the moon rose, full and bright, its pale glow filtered through the leaves like threads of silver. The wind grew still. Even the insects paused their songs, and in that hush, the forest remembered. They remembered the moments when danger had come and passed. They remembered kindnesses, shared food, shared nests, shared warnings of danger. They remembered that even the smallest among them could shift the path of a great beast. The Willorin King sat with his wings wrapped gently around his queen, perched just beside a tiny fox cub who had wandered in with sleepy eyes. No one shooed her away. She was part of this too. No speeches, no applause, only presence. And in that presence, something remarkable took root. A sense of oneness, of shared ground, shared sky, shared breath. The bear wasn't there, nor was he spoken of, not out of fear, but because tonight wasn't about him. It wasn't about strength or weakness. It was about belonging, and under the starlit branches, they all belonged. As the moon crossed overhead, some began to drift off into sleep, curled in moss or tucked into feathers. Others quietly returned to their dens, their nests, their burrows, hearts light, steps softer. The forest exhaled, and the ancient tree arms, spread to the stars, stood watch over them all, far beyond the gathering, where the trees grew thicker, and fewer birds dared nest. The bear walked alone. He hadn't roared in days. He hadn't chased or threatened or demanded anything. His massive paws moved slowly, pressing deep into the earth with each heavy step. Not because he was tired, though he was, but because he was thinking, in the way only a creature of his age and size could. Not with words, but with memories. He remembered the Willorin's challenge. How such a tiny bird had dared to defy him, not with claws or force, but with a kind of quiet courage. He remembered the moment he'd stood before the forest creatures, expecting them to tremble, and instead, seeing them stand side by side, with their heads high. He remembered feeling small, and now, out here in the quiet beyond, he felt something even stranger. Loneliness. It was not the loneliness of being alone. The bear had always liked his solitude, but the loneliness of being separate. He had spent so long trying to be feared, he'd forgotten what it was like to be welcomed. No birds perched near his den, no rabbits crossed his path. Even the wind seemed to move around him, instead of with him. He sat beside a still pond that mirrored the sky above. The moon's reflection rippled gently, broken by a falling leaf in the glassy surface. The bear did not see a monster. He saw himself, and he didn't look angry. He looked tired. He looked heavy. He looked like someone who had spent too long roaring into silence, and now finally wondered why. Around him, the forest carried on. A family of deer passed by at a distance, their ears twitching, but no longer running. A single owl hooted from a far branch. The night wasn't afraid of him anymore. It simply observed. The bear did not know what came next. He wasn't ready to return to the others. Not yet, but for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel the need to prove anything. He just sat, and the stars sat with him. The winds grew crisp, skies turned wide, and golden leaves began their glide. From maple crowns to mossy ground, they twirled in silence, spun around, no trumpet call, no sudden start, just time itself. A gentle art. The forest knew the signs so well, the shift in light, the cooling spell. The squirrels worked with hurried pace. Each nut and seed found hiding place. The mushrooms peeked from forest floor, where quiet rain would soon explore. The bees grew still, the blooms grew shy, and softer breezes swept the sky. The frogs now hummed in deeper tones. while owls rehearsed their twilight moans. But somewhere deep, Swede, its roots in dreaming slumber laid, it did not fear the coming rest, for even trees must take their test. Asterix, the wren chicks flew from nest to pine, their wings still small, their songs still fine. They'd learned of strength, of voice, of grace. Now each would find their own new place, and far away where silence stays. The bear watched changing forest ways, no longer feared, nor seen as foe. He simply watched the seasons flow, for autumn came to soften edges, to calm the sharpness of old pledges. It whispered, not of war or pride, but peace that comes from deep inside. Asterisk, the forest paused, but not in fear. It welcomed in the closing year, and in that pause, truth was found. Even the strongest hearts must slow to hear the quiet in the ground. The first snow did not shout its arrival. It came like a whisper, drifting through the sky in slow, swirling spirals. The forest hushed, not in fear, but in reverence. Even the wind seemed gentler, moving carefully between the trees as if afraid to disturb the stillness settling in. The branches, once heavy with color, now stood bare, dressed only in frost and memory. Animals moved more slowly now, not with sadness, but with purpose. Each step was measured, each glance thoughtful. Nests were lined with feathers, dens padded with dry leaves, cows in burrows curled into silence. And yet, beneath the surface of stillness, something beautiful stirred togetherness. Where once the creatures had kept their distance, separated by fear, sighs, or song, now they found reasons to draw close. A robin shared a branch with a sparrow. A hedgehog nestled quietly beside a fox in a hollow tree's roots. Even the owls flew lower, watching not just with hunger, but with care. The broad willow wren stayed near the heart of the tree, his feathers puffed to keep in the warmth, his mate tucked close. Their chicks, older now, but still young, whispered stories to one another as snow gathered on the outer branches. There were no meetings, no speeches, no declarations, just a quiet understanding. The bear, too, had found a place, not far, not hidden. A simple den beneath an old stone outcrop. He had not vanished into darkness. He remained close enough to listen, not to control, not to frighten, just to hear the soft rhythms of the forest he had once tried to rule. And in that stillness, strange peace held everything together, not loud or grand, not even spoken, but felt. In the way a mother bird tucked her wing around her nest, in the way the trees leaned together as snow collected in their arms, in the way breath moved slowly, evenly, like the earth itself had exhaled. Winter had come, and the forest, all of it, breathed as one winter did not leave all at once. It softened, slowly, gradually, as though it had no desire to disturb what it had settled. But the snow thinned over, days that grew longer. Icicles melted into quiet drips that echoed like a lullaby through the empty spaces of the forest. Beneath the frost, the earth stirred, not in haste, but in a knowing stretch, like someone waking from a deep, dream-filled sleep. The forest did not rush. It waited, and then, one morning, when the air was still cold, but no longer sharp, something green cracked through the soil near the willow tree, single sprout, no larger than a feather. It reached upward with quiet confidence, fed by light that felt warmer, more golden. The breeze that passed through the branches now carried a new scent, fresh, damp, alive. The willow wren noticed it first. He tilted his head, blinked toward the rising sun, and gave a short chirp. Not a call, not a song, just a greeting, whispered to the morning dot his chicks, now older and strong, enough to fly from one branch to the next, watched with bright eyes. They felt it too, a sense that something was shifting, scrolling, beginning again. Elsewhere, the bear emerged. He moved with care, blinking at the sunlight that filtered through the canopy. There was no hunger in his eyes, only wonder. The world looked different now, not because of the snow or the light or the absence of noise, but because he was different. He had learned to listen, not to lead, not to dominate, just to be present. He walked past the willow tree, giving it a slow nod as he passed, and for a moment, the wren returned it with a blink. No words were spoken. None were needed. Throughout the forest, signs of renewal bloomed quietly. Tiny blue flowers blinked open near the rocks. The stream, once frozen, began to babble again, its waters clear and playful. Even the sky seemed lighter, more curious. The old badger, who had spent most of winter inside his den, came out and stood at the edge of a clearing, breathing in a sense of wet bark and moss. Birds he hadn't seen in months returned one by one, filling the canopy with rustling wings and unfamiliar melodies. The forest, once divided by fear and noise, now moved as one. There were no councils, no announcements, but each creature knew things would not return to the way they were. The storm of pride had passed, the quiet strength of the willow wren, the humility learned by the bear, the unity found in stillness. These things had left deep roots, and now, in the warming air, they blossomed. The willow wren sat at the edge of his nest, his feathers fluffed in the soft breeze. Around him, the sounds of life rose, frogs croaking, insects buzzing, distant hooves on dry ground. But it wasn't overwhelming. It was gentle, rhythmic. Safe. His youngest chick turned to him. "Will everything stay this way?" it asked in a soft voice. The willow wren looked at the trees, at the sky, at the place where the snow had melted, and green had returned. He thought of all that had been, the fear, the loss, the quiet, and the coming together. "No," he said gently, "nothing ever stays the same. But now we know how to begin again. And that is enough." The chick nodded. The days grew longer. Morning arrived earlier now, brushing the sky with warm color long before the birds began to sing. The forest was fully awake, leaves wide and bright, branches full of chatter, and the ground soft beneath. New green growth, but at the heart of all this life, something quieter was happening. The willow wren sat perched on a slender branch near the top of the tree, not to look down, but to look out, beyond his nest. Beyond the forest he called home. His eyes followed the wind as it curved over distant hills, and his thoughts were not on himself, but on what would come after. His youngest chick, T, the one who asked questions, had begun asking even more. Why do we stay here when there's so much out there? What makes a leader if they don't roar? How do we know when to speak and when to listen? They weren't questions meant for bedtime. They were questions from a mind awakening to the world. And so, the willow wren began to teach, not through lessons, but through moments. He showed his chick how to feel the difference between a frightened silence and a peaceful one. He showed how to notice when the air shifted before rain, or when tension crept into the branches without a sound. He taught the strength of still wings and steady eyes. Sometimes, they would sit for long hours without speaking, simply watching the way the forest moved. "Most creatures see only the noise," he said one day. "But if you sit long enough, you'll notice the rhythm." His chick listened, and slowly began to see what others missed. The fox kit with the careful pause, the shy owl that only blinked once before turning away, the way the flowers closed early on the day before a cold wind came. The forest, it seemed, was always speaking, but only a few knew how to hear it. The queen, watching all of this from a lower branch, said little, but her eyes carried quiet pride. She had once been the brave voice that stood firm. Now, she watched her mate become something else, a guide, a quiet root for the next generation to grow from. And high in the canopy, that little chick, not quite so little anymore, began to see the world not as something to conquer or survive, but as something, to understand. It was not about size, not about song, not even about strength. It was about knowing when to stand, and when to wait, when to lead, and when to listen. And above all, it was about remembering that every creature, no matter how small or overlooked, leaves echoes in the canopy long after their wings have gone. There was a part of the forest no one spoke of often, not because it was feared, but because it was forgotten, tucked behind thick brambles and silent pools, where the light filtered down in long, slow beams. The air there smelled of moss and old bark, of memories not quite erased. The young willow wren had flown beyond the familiar trails that day, not in search of adventure, not in search of danger, but simply to be alone, not out of anger or sadness, but out of a quiet yearning, the kind that grows in the hearts of those ready to discover who they are when no one is watching. He drifted past twisting trunks and tangled roots until even the birdsong faded. In its place came a hush, not empty, but full of something ancient out here. The trees grew taller than elsewhere, but their bark was silvered with age, their branches reaching toward one another like old friends sharing secrets. Ivy clung to their sides, and soft mushrooms dotted their bases like forgotten stories. No creature stirred, no wings fluttered overhead, and yet the young wren didn't feel lonely. He felt still. In the middle of this grove stood a stone, covered in moss, worn by time. It wasn't large, nor impressive, but it felt important, somehow, as if it remembered something the rest of the forest had let go. The wren landed gently upon it. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he whispered, not to be heard, to feel his voice in the silence. I am here. And the grove seemed to listen. No echo, number, answer, just the soft warmth of acceptance. Here, no one expected him to lead, to sing, to note out here. He could simply be. He closed his eyes. Not in sleep, but in presence. He felt the way the air moved like a tide, the way the stone held the sun's heat, the way even silence had texture soft and layered like velvet in the wind. When he finally opened his eyes again, time had not rushed forward. The world had waited, and something inside him had settled. He didn't fly back right away. He wandered a little, not far, just enough to feel the shape of the place. A hollow tree filled with feathers, long abandoned. A nest of twigs shaped like a crown, resting on a low branch. A cracked eggshell, pale as moonlight, nestled in moss. He didn't know whose stories these were, but he felt honored to witness them. By the time he returned to the familiar parts of the forest, the light had shifted. Evening stretched gold across the treetops. He said nothing to his parents. He didn't need to. Some journeys speak loudest in silence, and deep within him, the quiet grove remained a secret place of his own, where nothing was expected. Everything was understood. One morning, just as dawn broke over the quiet treetops, the young willow wren awoke to a forest wrapped in mist. It rolled between branches like a soft blanket, and the usual sounds of the woods, the chatter of squirrels, the rustle of feathers, the hum of bees were replaced with something more delicate, stillness. He blinked through the pale fog. The world felt different, quieter than usual. Not empty, but expectant, like a page not yet turned, drawn by something he couldn't explain. The young wren took flight. He didn't rush. His wings moved slowly, gliding over dew-covered leaves and sleeping blossoms. The world below looked almost like a dream. Then, just beyond the bend, where the brook met the edge of the deeper woods, he saw her, a creature he had never seen before. She was neither bird nor beast, but something in between, tall and slender, with feathers like snow and fur like rain. Her eyes shimmered silver, and though she made no sound, he felt her presence ripple through the mist like a song without notes. She stood beneath a hollow tree. 2 N mauve V Y The wren landed nearby, unsure, but unafraid. The creature raised one paw, not in warning, but in welcome, and then, using no words, she began to speak, not with voice, not with movement, but with memory. Images bloomed in the mist around them, fleeting and gentle. He saw his forest as it once was, long before the bear or the battles. Trees taller, skies clearer, birds of every shape and color dancing in the wind, creatures of old, living in peace. Then he saw what was to come, not clearly, glimpses. A growing tree from the old stump, a nest built where none had rested for years. Young wrens teaching others to listen before they sing, and the bear, older now, slower, wiser, sitting beside the wren's father under a sunlit tree, no quarrel between them. When the visions faded, the creature blinked once, and in that blink, the mist began to lift. She stepped back into the fog, her form growing faint. The young wren called out softly, not with words, but with feeling, and she turned, just once, and nodded. Then she vanished. The sun pierced the trees. The warmth returned. The forest stirred awake, but something inside the wren had changed forever. He returned home, not with answers, but with peace. He told no one of the mist or the creature. Some things, he understood now, were not meant to be explained, only felt. Years passed, he grew, and, in time, became a quiet leader, not the loudest, nor the proudest, but the wisest. He taught the young ones to listen before they flew, to seek before they spoke, to sit in stillness without fear. And every so often, when the mist crept low through the trees, he would pause, close his eyes, and remember the silent messenger who had once shown him the soul of the forest. The willow wren's story was not one of power or conquest. It was a story of gentleness, of patience, of understanding and silence, and above all else,